Yo. This right here is a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip I paid $96 for. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, both, why did you do this? And okay, what's wrong with it? So I'm going to answer a couple of questions. First of all, why I bought this. It's a folding phone for $96. And it's the cool one. Second of all, what's wrong with it? Big crease. Oh no, big crease, dead pickle. Multiple dead pixels, actually. There's also like a black spot here at the crease, but it's so minor. And also, if you use dark mode, you will literally never notice it. Beside that, though, there's really nothing wrong with it. And honestly, it's still a really good phone 3 years later. Like, comparing this to my iPhone 13 Pro Max, they compare fairly similarly. They have a fairly similar display size. Their cameras are both 12 megapixels. Obviously, this one automatically wins in terms of which one fits in my pocket better, as that's the size closer to my wallet, and my phone is closer to the size of an iPad mini. But you may be wondering, why would I want something like this in its current condition when it's 3 years old? And well, it's quite simple, actually. If you're like me, and you're like, yeah, this is a cool concept, I want in, you can get in on it for such a low entry price. It's not even funny to me. Like, this is still an extremely capable device. This can run every app you want. You can play some, you can even do some light emulation. Got my Nintendo DS emulator here, and in my opinion, this is a really fun way to play DS on anything but a DS, because you get a lot of that DS feel. You can do some actual gaming, like for example, with Pojav Launcher, you can play real Minecraft Java Edition. And when I tested this, I got close to 100 frames per second running on 1.19.3, the latest version. On top of that, even with its blemishes, the display is still really good, honestly. I'm impressed by the quality. If I load up like a YouTube video here, let's pick out average sweats new video. You can see, obviously, this isn't the greatest viewing experience watching it through my 12-year-old, 13-year-old camera. But then also you have the edge mode. I don't know what the mode is called, but it just allows for almost like a dual screen experience. And it's such a seamless switch. It's honestly just fun to mess around with like this. Like a funky little party trick. Like a lot of apps, at least made by Google and Samsung, natively support that. And they do it flawlessly. And then you can even set up like dual apps using this feature. But then there's also things like the cameras. The cameras on this 3-year-old phone now are actually quite good in comparison to my iPhone 13. If we load up my camera app, you can see here's a photo of my cat. And I'll show it on screen in post, but you can see that this is a really good detailed image. I can zoom in and see the hair follicles on my cat's nose. And then I also took some similar photos on my iPhone 13. And once again, obviously different aspect ratio, different resolution. But once again, that detail is really good. Extremely similar to what's seen on my $96 Z Flip. This $1,200 phone from a year ago is extremely close to this 3-year-old folding phone that was, at its time, a flagship. And, well, the battery life as well, it's been on 90% all day. I mean, sure, I haven't been using it much, but it's still good. Even if I don't use it, and say, my main phone, my iPhone 13, is dying, I can just turn on wireless power sharing, close it, and set my actual phone right on top and charge it. Even if I don't use this as a phone, it's a competent battery bank. I can just throw it on my wireless charger, wake up in the morning, keep it in my pocket, and in case my real phone gets low on some juice, I can just juice it up with the Z Flip, as it's actually kind of smaller than most battery banks I own. Of course, I'm not much of a battery bank person myself. Alright, so after using the Z Flip for a couple days, right, I've kind of come to one main conclusion about the phone, and it's that it was never meant to be, like, a full-fledged feature phone. I mean, it has the specs. It has everything a feature phone would have from 2020. But it was meant to be, like, a fashion statement. And, like, obviously, it's you know, it's a cool piece of tech. It's something that I personally really like the concept of. I love having such a small packet. Like, its best use for me, though, is kind of just, oh, I have a lot of tight pockets, and this will fit in there fine. Because, well, it's like the size of my wallet. Like, if I grab my, like, dad wallet real quick and slam it right next to the Z Flip, it's smaller than my wallet. Like, this is beautiful for skinny jean wearers, and, regrettably, I am one of those. I don't want to be, but I am. And, well, it's quite, like, the actual phone experience is nice, although the newer Z Flip models definitely probably have a better experience with things like a 120Hz refresh rate, and also the bigger outer screen. Because, well, one of the main, like, features of the Z Flip is that you can use the outer screen as, like, a viewfinder to take selfies with this, you know, better camera. So, like, it works. You can quickly pop out the camera, and then there's my disgusting mug. I am, yikes. You know, like, it works, and I definitely think it's a lot better over using the inner camera, which actually, the inner camera I don't think is very good on this phone, honestly. My iPhone 13 absolutely curb stomps it, even my 11 does. And fuck, even my 10R from, like, 2018 curb stomps it. I took some really good selfie camera photos with it. But the Z Flip has a purpose. As a portable wireless charger. Good night. Okay, but actually, the Z Flip has a lot of strengths. Okay, but actually, the Z Flip has a lot of strengths. It has fairly good battery life, even 3 years later. It's got a fairly nice screen. It's got the entire outer screen thing, which I think is actually really nice to have. It's got still decent specs. Like, I feel like it could be comparable to, like, a mid-range phone from now. And honestly, for the prices that you could get, like, one in good condition, it's not a bad idea, honestly. You can get one of these for, like, $200-300 in good condition, and it has just perfect specs, honestly. I mean, 8 gigabytes of RAM, a Snapdragon 820, and 256 gigs of storage. That's not bad. Fuck, that's the same amount of storage that's in my iPhone 13 Pro Max. My fucking big guy here has the same amount of storage as this fucking $100 Z Flip. But what this doesn't have is guaranteed long-term support. This does have Android 13. It does have One UI 5. What it doesn't have is really, like, a guarantee that it's going to get any more than that. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get any more than that. I mean, sure, you know, it's quite promising that Samsung's already given it the latest Android version at the same time as its, like, current flagships. But I don't expect this to get past maybe Android 14 and One UI 6. Like, that's about as far as I'd expect to see this phone go. Maybe another year of software support. Maybe 2 more years. I don't know. Because to be fair, like, I'll give credit where credit's due. This is a powerful phone. It's a good phone. It should, in theory, get that software support. But knowing how Android device manufacturers have been in the past, with things like the Galaxy S7, with decent specs, you know, even a couple of years afterwards, obviously not now, but, like, in 2020, you could be caught dead with this phone. And, you know, like, you'd be fine. Like, people wouldn't, I mean, people would call you poor, but that's because you had an Android. But, you know, the specs on it, once again, were kind of comparable to, like, a mid-range phone at that time, I think. I don't know. I wasn't, like, a big mid-range phone person in 2020. But what I do know is that it only got supported between Android 6 to 8. It shipped with 6, only got up to 8. That's 2 Android updates. 7 and 8, that's all it got. Now, this is on its second update that it's gotten, I believe. I believe it shipped with Android 11. I'm not 100% sure. But if I remember right, it shipped with Android 11, and it's currently on 13. I know it's currently on 13. I have the phone in my hand. And it is it's a well-adapted experience. This phone has every feature a brand new Z Flip would have on the software side. I don't know if it supports things like Samsung DeX. That's a fairly big gray area, but I don't know anybody that actually would use Samsung DeX. I mean, it would be a quite nice DeX device. You have this nice little thin, not thin, but small, just a little cube that you can set on your desk, plug into your laptop, and boom, you have access to everything. And then if you want to use it as a touchpad, you have a big touchpad. But what this doesn't have, that every other feature phone, normal non-folding phone has, is guaranteed longevity. This phone is rated for up to 200,000 opens and closes. That's I think that is approximately about 5 years of opening and closing your phone, maybe 20 to 50 times a day. I'm kind of just guessing this based off of really bad math. Maybe it's more like 10, I don't know. But these phones will most likely always have this middle crease. Now, obviously, people could have, they could have taken some kind of measures to prevent this. Maybe, instead of it being a fully flat angle, it could have been something more like this, where it's slightly curved. I mean, Samsung's done that in the past. It's not like something they just couldn't do. I mean, sure, the user experience might not be as perfect and, normal phone-like, but it's if you're buying this as your day-to-day phone, you're not normal. You're weird. And that's a good thing. Because honestly, the more people that buy these, the more people end up supporting the innovations in this technology. I hope in 5 to 10 years, we'll have a really durable folding phone that doesn't crease. That is obviously fairly far-fetched. We're probably never getting anything besides plastic screens, but you can make durable plastic, right? I mean, sure, you might not be able to make very hard plastic, but if they just made it so you could put screen protectors on these, because, you can't. Apparently it obstructs the fold or something. I don't know. I'm not a fold expert. But if you could just put your own screen protector on this, or if the internal screen protector, which is the thing that actually creases and cracks over the years, if this was a replaceable part, so that you didn't have to replace the entire phone, so many of these would be saved from just going straight to waste, like this phone here. This I bought from an e-waste recycling place on eBay. And I saved this phone from being just thrown away or recycled into God knows what. Probably another Z Flip. Now, before closing, I do want to talk a little bit more about using this phone as my kind of main phone. Obviously, I didn't try to make any texture calls on it, but I did use it a bit for things like messaging, using Discord, Twitter, And one thing I can say, the fingerprint sensor, which I mainly allot to the fact that this is a very thin device, at least when unfolded, it just doesn't recognize my finger half the time because my finger isn't positioned perfectly on it. And the facial recognition flat out sucks. Apple has probably some of the only good facial recognition on a flagship phone today. And it's because it just works. I can look at this and open it immediately. The Z Flip, it has about a 25% success rate. If I flip open my Z Flip and I look at it straight with zero obstructions to my face, it searches, and it doesn't find me. This was a flagship phone, which I believe was $1,200 when it came out, 3 years after the iPhone X, which had, even then, really good facial recognition. If I whip out my XR, which has the same Face ID as the iPhone X, it still instantly recognizes my face. It doesn't care about my hair being on my face, if I'm wearing glasses or not. It doesn't care if I've sprouted a new pimple. It just picks it up. And that's why a lot of people, I've learned, because a lot of Android users I know only use the fingerprint sensor, even if they have facial recognition. And it's because that fingerprint sensor is always going to be faster, at least on this, like on most Android phones, than using facial recognition. It doesn't require them to mess with their face, reposition their face, move into better lighting. It just works. And honestly, I get it. Like, it's fast. I can turn the phone off. And as soon as I tap that power button, it's on. Of course, obviously, at least this phone, it's been like, when I've used it, and when I was setting up it initially, it yelled at me a lot to clean the sensor when realistically I just needed to position my finger differently. And I don't know if I hope that's been fixed in later Z Flip models and just like later models in general. Like, at least in my experience, I know that the fingerprint sensors on the backs of the phone, instead of the logo, those were so much better. I've never personally tested like a underscreen fingerprint sensor, but I do believe that it would most likely be a lot better than what's in this. Because honestly, what's in this it sucks on it compared to even just like old Touch ID on like if this is obviously an example phone. This iPhone doesn't work currently, but like the Touch ID on this is so much better. It's so much easier to like than what's on this. That's kind of what I imagine an underscreen would be like, just if there was no bezel. And honestly, I know it would be possible to pack in the Z Flip. It would be such a task, but it could be done. And I think now I might be needed somewhere else. Hello?